Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of The Conversation. And today I got a pretty interesting topic for you guys. And the topic is the real reason why Kawhi Leonard is the most dangerous man in the playoffs, or at least these coming playoffs. So that's what I want to get into in this video today. But before we get into it, make sure you guys go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please make sure you go ahead and do that and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. So let's get back into the topic. So as you know, the NBA season is happening. Training camp is already up and running, is underway, and teams are beginning to scrimmage. And a lot of these analysts on TV, including myself, we're beginning to make predictions going into the playoffs. And for me, I've always contended that I believe that Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the world, and I think he shows his value in the playoffs when games matter the most and when the chips are on the line. That's when he seems to really rise to the occasion. I've always contended this, and I've always felt that way. But if you look in the mainstream media, there are very few people that seem to talk about Kawhi Leonard in a glowing way. Most people will give him his props and say he's a really good player, top 3, top 5. You seldom hear people say he's the best player in the world, and you seldom hear people talk about him the way people have been talking about him as of recent. I mean, on our channel, because LeBron gets so much coverage on ESPN and Fox Sports. I mean, LeBron puts out a tweet, they're going to cover that. So we try to cover I try to cover Kawhi because I feel like he's just so great, but he doesn't get enough credit. Now, before I get too far into my argument, I want you to take a listen to what Paul Pierce had to say about Kawhi Leonard going into these playoffs and what he believes about Kawhi Leonard going to these playoffs. So before I go too far, just take a listen to that audio.
Listen, a no restriction, no limit on Kawhi will be the most dangerous player in the bubble. And I'll tell you why. First of all, Kawhi doesn't need a crowd to get himself going. You talk about a guy who shows no emotion on his face. He doesn't need guys in his face to pump him up. And we already seen the spectacular run he put on last year. I mean, and no restriction, Kawhi will be the best player in this year's playoffs in this bubble. I guarantee you, a no limits Kawhi. He's coming off a great run last year. He has a better team behind him this year. This is the perfect scenario for Kawhi Leonard going into the playoffs. If he makes it through these 8 games, expect to see greatness once again from Kawhi Leonard.
Hey, Paul, true. Did LeBron retire?
No, he's still in the league. But who's the reigning finals MVP? Who's the reigning champion? Come on now, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm just saying.
Who's the best two-way player in the game?
You just better watch out.
Who got better? Who got better at passing the ball? Who got better at scoring? He got better from a year ago. We saw how great he was. He's even better this year, Perk.
Now, in that soundbite, you hear Paul Pierce talk about the fact that he believes Kawhi Leonard is the most dangerous player, and I'm going to go a little bit further into that to explain why. First of all, as we all know, these particular playoffs will have no home court advantage. So there's no thing as, traveling for away games, playing under pressure like in places like Utah, where the fans can be pretty rowdy and it can be pretty, belligerent. They can say a lot of things to players that can get them out of their stride. Or playing up in Denver and, other scenarios like that. There's none of that. No one has home court advantage, number one. Number two, there's no crowd, okay? And in basketball, I believe basketball is one of those sports where players really tend to rely a lot on the crowd. It's not like golf or boxing or something like that, where it's a singular endeavor and players are really relying on themselves to get themselves pumped up. Basketball, players really get, riled up by the crowd chanting and, cheering for them. But in these playoffs, there is no crowd, and Kawhi Leonard seems to be one of these players that marches to the tune of his own drum. Like, he doesn't seem like someone that's flustered by things that happen around him. If you watch him play and you look at his demeanor, he's very stoic. If you look at his eyes, he never really seems to be out of character. He seems like he goes to this place where he's on the court, but he goes to a different place on the court where he's operating, as they say, like a Terminator, man. This dude, he's a different breed. And if you look at his numbers this season, for example, Kawhi Leonard is averaging 27 points a game, 7.3 rebounds and 5 assists, and he's shooting some really good percentages, like damn near 37% from the 3-point line, 47 or 48% from the floor, 89% from the free throw line, getting you 1.8 steals a game. So the guy's putting up some tremendous numbers, But if you look at his performances in the playoffs is when things really start to get pretty crazy. Now, last season, I believe it was, if you look at Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs when he played in 2016, 2017, when he was healthy, I want you guys to listen to these numbers. He was averaging 27.7 points a game. He was shooting 52.5% from the field. He shot 45.5% from the three-point line. He got you, he shot 93% from the free throw line. He got you 7.8 rebounds and 4.8 assists with 1.7 steals. He was essentially a 50-40-90 club player in the playoffs. He shot over 50% from the field, over 40% from the three-point line, and over 90% from the free throw line. I think people just don't understand just how good of a basketball player Kawhi Leonard is. I think people are under some type of delusion where they feel like, oh, well, he takes games off and blah, blah, blah. Some people out there don't understand just how lethal this guy is as a basketball player. If we look at his numbers and by the way, in 2016, 2017, he played, they played 12 games. He played 12 games in the playoffs. So I think that was when he was going up against, the final numbers was when he was going up against the Golden State Warriors, who would eventually be the NBA champions. If you look at last season, the dude averaged 30.5 points a game. He shot 49% from the field, so he basically shot 50% from the field. He shot 38% from the three-point line, 88.4% from the free throw line, got you 9.1 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and 1.7 steals and 0.7 blocks, okay? Kawhi Leonard is a different type of basketball player, and people don't really seem to understand that. These are Michael Jordan type numbers if you look at production and efficiency. And I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but these are MJ type numbers, and the numbers he put up last season are the third highest most points scored in playoff history, behind Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And I think Paul Pierce recognizes that. I think the general media they're going to be late to the party, but people just don't understand just how good of a player he is in the playoffs. It's like night and day. If you think Kawhi Leonard is good now, when he gets to the playoffs, he's going to be the MVP of the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to have some stiff competition in Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and James Harden. But to be honest with you guys, I think he's going to be the best player in the playoffs. These upcoming playoffs, and this is the reason why I think he is the most dangerous player going into these playoffs. A lot of people have some trepidations about his running mate and Paul George. Let me just say this, okay? Because some people feel like Paul George needs to show up in a big way, and to be quite frank, he does, because he's going to be going up against stiff competition this season. If you look at the Western Conference landscape, there are a lot of really good, talented players in the Western Conference. But if Kawhi Leonard was able to make it to the finals with Kyle Lowry and an up and coming Pascal Siakam, this year he's going to be playing with Paul George, who finished last season third in MVP voting, and third in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He's better than Pascal Siakam, and he's much better than Kyle Lowry. But he also has bench scoring that most likely will get him about 40 points a game off the bench. If you don't believe me, go look at the numbers that Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams are putting up this season coming off the bench. So Kawhi Leonard is actually on a better team. But let me just say this, when the playoff begins, and if everything remains the same, I guarantee you he is going to be the most lethal basketball player in the world these coming playoffs. And I'm not just saying this out of what I hope and think. I've given you guys some solid numbers historically, so we can go back and look at some of his performances to see just how lethal of a player he is. And if you're thinking that those two seasons, these two seasons are outlier numbers, in 2015, 2016, he averaged 22.5 points a game in the playoffs, shot again 50% from the field, shot again 43.6% from the three-point line, 82% from the free throw from the free throw line, got you 6.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 2.6 steals, and 1.4 blocks. I don't know many players that put up these type of numbers, but that's how much of a performer Kawhi Leonard is when he's in the playoffs. So for me, I think he's going to be the best player in the world these coming playoffs and the most dangerous one for all of the facts that I laid out to you guys in this video. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree with me? Do you think that Kawhi Leonard is truly going to be a monster? It's going to be a demolition derby in these playoffs? Or do you think it's someone else and you think maybe Paul Pierce is wrong or I'm wrong? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, make sure you check out the Dreamerspro Podcast, where we give out some of our end of the season awards, so you guys can check that out and let me know what your thoughts are on that. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Peace.